Hey folks, how's it going? Hope you're all doing great. Today I will be talking about privacy coins or privacy cryptocurrencies. I prefer calling them tokens and not cryptocurrencies. Today's agenda is going to revolve around these three high level topics. The first topic is tokens, fiat, crypto, electronic currencies. Second item is privacy and anonymity, aka fungibility. And the last topic is going to be showing you some of the privacy tokens that are around. So the idea of tokens is not new. It has existed for a while. Only that the tokens that we have been using have had a certain value within the confines of the business or the area that we were in. Let's say you went to a fair, you paid your entry fees, and then you got yourself some tokens. And whenever you wanted to go for a ride or something, you paid those tokens and you got the ride or whatever you wanted. And if you left the fair with some tokens in your pocket, those tokens were pretty much worthless. You could not sell them to anybody. And same thing goes for casino tokens. Only difference is that casinos are there, and if you bring some tokens with you, you can go back again a few days, weeks, months later and use the same tokens. That is, if the tokens have not been changed by the casino. The good thing about the casino tokens is that they always retain their value. So if you bought a $10 chip, it's going to be worth $10. If you buy it for $5, then it's $5 or $100 and so on. So the value does not fluctuate that often. But with cryptocurrencies, the issue is the value keeps on changing, and it is pretty difficult to use them as a store of value. There are some other currencies available, not some, just one for now. It is called Tether, which is not exactly the same conversion rate as the US dollar, but it is tied to the US dollar. We have been using electronic money for a while now, even without thinking about it. So ever since the credit cards and debit cards came into existence, since in the late 70s, early 80s, for any goods or services that you purchased, you paid them with your debit card or credit card. Hence, it was electronic money in my eyes, and you didn't need to carry cash with you. And you know, when and the way it happens is you pay for it and everything happens in the background. Somebody takes care of it, all those transfers between you and the merchant and so on. The one thing that the electronic money, as I'm calling it, has introduced is the ability to track people's activities, their spending activities. Prior to debit cards and credit cards, the only way to track people's spending activities was via their bank accounts and checks. Although checks are less prevalent now, as electronic funds transfer mechanisms have taken hold. Bitcoin was an experiment in terms of creating an electronic payment instrument where there was no central body controlling it. So what that means is every time you use a Visa or a MasterCard or any of the credit cards, it goes through that card card issuers network. So when that happens, the card issuer takes some money from different parties involved in the transaction. So in a typical credit card transaction, the merchant pays certain amount of money to the payment processor. The payment processor has a relationship with the card brand, so the card brand charges the payment processor some percentage for their services, and then the card processor then settles the payment with the merchant. And in this whole thing, the customer doesn't have to pay anything, so that's a convenience to the customer. But there are also cards which charge you some that provide you some premium services, and they charge you for that particular activity. So like I said, Bitcoin was pretty much an experiment. So Bitcoin was an experiment, and the idea was there would be no central body controlling it. Everything would happen peer to peer. So when I send you some Bitcoin, it would come to you without anybody charging any extra money in between. But the whole issue with that was as the number of transactions grew on the Bitcoin network, the charges for transferring Bitcoin became higher and higher, and that very idea of using it as a payment instrument, that use case did not work, because if you had to transfer small amounts of Bitcoin, the transaction charges would be so high that there was no point sending a micro payment to somebody. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with a company that came out a few years back. It was called ChangeTip, and the business model for them was you could include a button on your website, your blog, and it allowed people to send you tips if they liked your article or your post or something like that. And one of the reasons for them going bankrupt or closing shop was because the transaction cost for a Bitcoin started skyrocketing at one point in 2017. I remember when I had to transfer some of my Bitcoin, it cost me about $40 per Bitcoin for the transaction. So that's how it went. That's how high it went. I'm sorry. So that pretty much stopped the use case for Bitcoin in terms of using it for everyday spending usage, because the transaction costs are going to be so high. So next comes the idea of privacy and anonymity and fungibility. So right now, when you spend a $100 bill or $50 bill, you don't really care where that money came from. So let's say you went to the bank teller, you got a $100 bill, you spent it somewhere, and in return you got some 20s and some 5s, but you don't really care where those 20s and 5s came from. But what you care about is the value of those 20s and 5s remains the same with you, and when you give it to somebody's going to accept it as well with that face value. With the advent of Bitcoin, the issue that came about was because it was using a ledger, because blockchain is pretty much a ledger. You were able to track a typical coin from who's used it, when was it used. So that means that if somebody knew the public address of the entity who was using it, and that entity happened to be some fraudulent organization or some fraudulent organization, then you could, because you in your mind know that particular coin has been used for fraudulent activities, you could deny it. And here comes that idea of fungibility, where people are able to track the money, and that fungibility becomes an issue, that the values doesn't remain the same, because um, and this was something that started getting practiced by some Bitcoin exchanges. They said if this token was used in certain other exchanges which were a bit shady, they were not going to accept those. um, and this was again an issue, well, with the spenders of users of the crypto. So in order to address this, ideas that came about, that said, we are going to create a version of tokens which you are not going to be able to track to where it was used, when it was used, and how it was used. Because right now with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, you can, if they know, if you know my public um, address, then you can pretty much go through the blockchain explorer and find out where I'm spending it, who sent uh, money, and how much money was sent to this public address, and where did this public address then send that money onwards to. And likewise, if you went about putting names to all the public addresses, then you would know who transferred money to who and how much, and then you could easily also figure out what is a wallet, where is it sitting, and how much money is sitting in that particular wallet. So in order to address this particular issue of making things untraceable, not because of any malicious reasons, just to implement the fiat use case, where you don't really care where that $50 bill or a $5 bill or a $1 bill came from. It is a $1 bill to you, and that's the amount of it is worth when you give it to somebody, and they will easily accept it without even keeping a track of it, right? As you can see on the slide, I have put together a list of some of the privacy tokens that are out there, and that I've searched to the web and did some research on them. And they are sorted in a chronological order from when they were founded. As you can see, there has always been this requirement for anonymity and the fungibility issue. So Bitcoin was the very first one that came out to address the gaps that Bitcoin was not addressing. And Bitcoin was one of those, as you can see, it was a blockchain that was not forked from anything. It was a brand new blockchain that they came up with. And then a few years after Bitcoin was created, Monero came along, and Monero is pretty famous these days as well. A lot of people use Monero and Dash. Verge is not that famous, neither is PivX. Zcash, predominantly the market is dominated by Monero, Dash, and Zcash. But as you can see, there are multiple teams trying to win the piece of the pie on this privacy market. And if people want to adopt these, they're more than welcome, and they have their own implementations, they have their own issues and quirks. For instance, Monero does not offer any other options of sending the tokens on its network. They're always privacy is already always enabled. Verge gives you an option. Dash does as well. PivX, because it's a fork off of Dash, it does offer the ability to do instant send just like Dash can, where if you wanted to do a transaction which required a quick confirmation, then you could use SwiftX or PivX and instant send for Dash. And moving right along, Zcash, which is a fork off of Bitcoin. So Zcash again is one of those where it is trying to improve on Bitcoin, the security of Bitcoin, and it's using different algorithms. Then came Zclassic, Zcash, Deep Onion, which is running off of the Tor network. Deep Onion is not doing an ICO as such. They're doing airdrops, as they call it nowadays in the ICO world, which is distributing tokens for free. And the latest attempt at the privacy token is the Bitcoin Private, which came out 2nd of March 2018. So the fork happened on the 2nd of March, so it's pretty new. Let's see which one wins. It all depends on the ease of use, the usability of the token, its acceptance in the different ecosystems. About your privacy, where your money goes or who can see it, continue using whatever medium of exchange you wish to use. You can use Ethereum, Bitcoin blockchain, or whatever, right? But if you are privacy conscious, then you have a solution available to you to use, and every solution has its ups and downs, pros and cons. It's pretty much up to you as to what do you feel comfortable with, and before you start using a typical token or a particular token, make sure you do your research and understand how it works, which kind of wallets does it support, does it have a mobile wallet for you to use, where does it get accepted. So those are some of the considerations I would think one would have. At least that's what I would look at. Like the ease of use at this point of time is the most important. How easy it is to use this token, and the portability itself as well. Because I don't want a wallet that I can only use on my mobile phone. I want something that I can use on my mobile, on my desktop, and through an application as well. And one name that comes to my mind right now is the Jax wallet. And the reason Jax is coming to my mind is I was at an event on Friday by some young entrepreneurs, the Generation Z as they call themselves, and Anthony Diorio, one of the co-founders of Ethereum was there as well, and he has just come up with this wallet. He came up with this wallet Jax sometime last year, which is one of those where it runs on different platforms and supports a whole bunch of cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure if Jax right now supports all these privacy tokens too, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. So look for a wallet that is cross platform and it's easy to use. So folks, hope you found this discussion informative. I know in this table that I'm showing, some fields are blank, and this is my this is something I'm developing on my own. I have a whole Excel file at this point of time, which I will later convert into some kind of a searchable repository and put it on the web, where you could find out lots of technical information about most of the cryptocurrencies. So this is my Skunkworks project, which is in progress at this point of time. With that, folks, I hope this talk was informative. Again, thank you for your time. As usual, if you like the content, please share it in your network, subscribe it, and show your appreciation via the mechanisms you have at your disposal in your social network. So if you're using Facebook, like it. If you're using SoundCloud, use their mechanisms. If you're listening to it on TuneIn, whatever mechanism they have, do that. Or if you're on YouTube, like it, provide your comments, and especially on YouTube, if you like the content, please subscribe to my channel by hitting the bell button, and when you hit the bell button, you will also be notified of any new posts that I may have. With that, thank you very much. Hope you have a nice day. Bye bye.